Hello again, I am Blunty, and this beastie right here is probably one of the worst kept secrets in recent camera history. It has been leaking all over the internet like a badly dressed wound. Yeah, well, that's an awful analogy. I'm sorry about that. I've been watching some House recently. Anyway, it is the new Olympus OMD EM1, and it is Olympus's new flagship Micro Four Thirds shooter. This is the best of the best. This is their pro model. This is about as serious as they can possibly get. And when you boil it down to what's in here, it's basically the OMD EM5 and the Pen EP5, all the awesome bits and technology from those two things mushed into one awesome camera. And spoiler alert, I know I've only started out on this review, but it is an epically awesome camera. So anyway, I've got a lot to cover, so I'm going to do the thing where I split the hardware review and the results review into a couple of different videos so I can get all the useful details in that I want to get in. Naturally, today's all about the hardware. Secured inside the solid structure is a new sensor. It's 16 megapixels like the one in the EP5, but this one has no AA filter, so its resolving power is even better. And the images produced should be as sharp as possible, but to avoid the issues of a missing AA filter, specifically making your images more prone to aliasing and moire, Olympus have built-in software-based filtering systems, which actually carries a specific processing profile for every different Micro Four Thirds lens separately, and not just Olympus' own lens, from every manufacturer. And doing it like this should deliver a best of both worlds situation: the stunning clarity of a sensor without an AA filter, but with the artifact-free images of a sensor with one. It is, of course, also packing the gobsmackingly epic 5-axis image stabilization system, and I'll show you just how amazing that is in the next video when we look at the results, but for now, trust me, it's epic. Well, let's take a quick tour around the hardware first, shall we? Now, as you can see, it looks fairly bulky, but it is fairly small. I mean, it can fit in my hands like that. And this whole section down here, this is detachable. This is the optional battery portrait grip here. So you've got a couple of wheels up here with the shutter, of course, and you've got a couple of function buttons down there, and an extra battery that goes in there so you can keep shooting all day long. But it does, of course, unscrew, being an optional battery adapter, so you're left with the actual camera body, which is surprisingly tiny and small and light. It is just a little bit bigger than the original OMD EM5. It has the grip now that it is part of the camera. This was an optional accessory with the EM5, but people said they wanted a grip on it, so Olympus put a grip on it, and it is a fairly substantial grip. I would prefer my grips a little bit deeper, but it is very, very comfortable. It's got lovely grippy rubber on it. A couple of extra function buttons down here, which are assignable by default. Actually, I don't remember what they were by default, but I've got them set up for the 2x crop mode and the focus peaking mode, so you can activate it just by tapping your fingers on there, which I love. Now, up the top here, we've got a little dial up here. Well, it's not a dial, a little set of buttons, which it looks for all the world like an old film winder from the old film cameras. On-off switch there, nice physical solid switch. It is on the wrong side of the camera for my taste though. I like having the on-off switch over here so I can get to it. If I'm carrying my camera around in one hand, I can just go on-off with one hand. But this one, it's over here, so I have to do it manually, which is a bit annoying, but not really a deal breaker. Now, as you can probably see on there, this is where you switch to your rapid fire modes, your self-timer mode, and several HDR options, which I will show you in just a minute. Autofocus and metering modes can be shortcut to there as well. The mode dial over here looks like any other mode dial in the world. It does have a button in the middle, which is a lock. So you hit that, and it won't accidentally move your mode if you shove it in a bag or when you're, lugging it around or something. But unlike the one, for example, on the Canon line of cameras, which you have to hold down so you can move the thing, which is complete nightmare, pain in the ass thing. This is just a toggle switch, so you can either lock or unlock, and you can leave it however you like it. So if you don't like it locked, you can just leave it unlocked all the time, which is what I did, because I never accidentally switch my mode dials anyway. It's just never happened to me. So front and rear dials, of course, as you would expect, they are nice and solid and very clicky and sort of positive feedback from them. Function button up the top there, dedicated record button there, another function button there, and these of course are all completely customizable because this is an Olympus camera designed for pros, so you can make them do whatever you like. There is the dual mode switch here, which I forget what Olympus call this thing, but basically it means you can, in position 1, you can go, for example, your shutter speed and aperture when you're in manual mode, flick it down there, and then you can go ISO and white balance, or any one of a bunch of different combinations. Little screen switch over there, which I'll show you. Actually, we'll turn it on and I'll show you that. So we can bring up that display there, so you can see exactly what's going on with the camera. Now, viewfinder built in, of course, because it is a Pro model. This is the same viewfinder technology that is in Olympus's new VF4 viewfinder, which is superb, by the way. Very crisp, very clear, lovely, huge screen. I mean, it's comparatively huge. I think it's one of the biggest viewfinders in all of cameradom, and it is brilliant. It does have a little bit of sort of motion blur and lag and stuff, so it's still not quite as good as a true optical viewfinder, but it is one of the best out there, and I've been using it lots and have zero problems with it. It's wonderful. It gives you a nice big crispy display, and it is of course 100% field of view, so what you see is absolutely what you get.
Oh, and check this shiz out. Olympus have finally listened. That right there, that is a dedicated microphone input. Can I get a hallelujah? Now that makes me fizz with the happy joy feelings. Sadly though, they haven't quite listened to all of the requests from video shooters. We're still stuck with the middle ground bitrate and only 30p. There is still no alternate frame rates here. Can't win them all, I guess. Baby steps. And of course, it's not surprising to find one of Olympus's other recent new feature additions. Their excellent focus peaking system is on board here too. And it's still every bit as awesome as it was on the EP5. Unfortunately though, like the EP5, you still can't use it in video mode. And that's every bit as frustrating to have that limitation as it was on the EP5. Because it'd just be so epic to have it work in video.
Now, as for the menu, the screen, by the way, lovely screen, but it is also a tilty screen, which is, you know, awesome. I love tilty screens because it makes getting high and low angle shots nice and easy. I do prefer the screens that sort of swivel out to the side because then I can shoot myself as a one-man band, but, you know, this is better than not having a tilty screen at all. The screen is lovely, very viewable outdoors in the daylight, as most of Olympus's screens are these days. All of the Olympus's screens are these days. Really, if I'm fair. The menu system, standard Olympus fare, which I love. So we can hit OK there and we get a whole... Whoops. No, I've got focus there. So there we go. And you've got a whole bunch of easy to get to shortcut options. Very logical, very quick and easy to get to. And of course you've got function buttons which you can assign to other stuff we can get to even faster. So if we hold down that function button, we've got a few different options here. Highlights and shadow control, which is awesome. So you can fiddle with your shadows and highlights live as you go. You can fiddle with the S-curve, which we have seen in a couple of different Olympus's model now, but it's always awesome. So let's hold it down and I'll show you the new trick it can do. This is the color creator. So if we hit that now, in one dial, we can actually change the color hue of the entire image, and with the other dial, we can change the saturation. And between these two, you can pretty much get any kind of color style you're looking for. Fiddle with the hue, we can fiddle with how much of saturation you got, and this is just an amazingly fun thing to play around with when you're in the world. You can get all kinds of lovely sort of color effects right in the camera without any fuss at all. It is brilliant and intuitive and easy and wonderful, and I want this on every camera I own from here on in. It's one of those features that you didn't know was awesome until you started using it and you go, oh, I want that in everything.
And the thing I love most about this new twiddly color wheelie dealy thingy is that if you desaturate completely right down to monotone, the hue selection still affects how the black and white image is processed. Exactly like it works when you use colored filters with a black and white film. And that gives you a glorious amount of control over your black and white shooting. The ability to do HDR shots has also been given a big shot of steroids. You've got Olympus's usual and okay-ish in-camera processing options, but for us control freaks, there's a new set of options for various combinations of ranges and numbers of shots to cover those ranges. It's not quite as powerful as being able to completely customize your exposure steps, but there's enough commonly used options here that 99% of HDR shooters out there will be absolutely happy. It's so easy. You select your option, you hit the shutter once, and let the camera do everything else. Well, except for the HDR processing. You do that yourself because you're the control freak after all, aren't you? And given the magical 5-axis image stabilization system, you can even get away with doing this stuff handheld. Pretty confident in a high success rate.
And of course, being a modern camera built for modern times, it has Wi-Fi built into it. No surprises there. And it is an even more capable Wi-Fi functionality than what is in Olympus's other existing cameras. It has a few more extra bells and whistles. You can do all the normal stuff. You can import your photos straight to your device. You can edit them using Olympus's filters and all that sort of stuff. But the more interesting thing is the new remote control features. And this is a beta version of the app. They will have an updated version of the app coming out when this camera hits stills, obviously, so you can do these nifty things. So what we can do this time around, instead of having iAuto as the only option to shoot in, you can go program mode, or aperture mode, or shutter priority mode, or fully manual mode. So you've got way more control than you ever did before with the old app. And it pretty much works exactly how you'd expect it to. You want to change the aperture, you tap on the aperture and you just drag it around. Really, really easy. You want to change the exposure compensation, you can just drag it around. Really, really easy. If you want to change the ISO, come on, there we go, let's go ISO 3200. This is, like I said, a beta version of the app, so it's not quite as responsive as it will be when it launches. White balance, we'll leave that as auto, I think. Come on, go away. So down here we have a couple of different touch modes. You can touch to take a picture, so you can touch and it will focus and then take a picture immediately. Let's go back to the camera. Or you can touch to focus, so we want it to focus there, and then you can set everything else up and you go, okay, take the picture now, and you can take the picture and it goes. So it's a low res copy to your phone. You can either then transfer it to your camera roll or keep going back to your camera, and everything you take is also saved to the camera's own card as well, so you don't have to transfer everything or anything at all to the iDevice if you don't want to. So we can then change shooting modes. You can go high speed or low speed, or use the self timer, so you can set yourself up in front of the camera and use the self timer to go, okay, take a picture in 6 seconds. Then you got time to put the camera, put your phone in your pocket and take your self portrait. I wish though that you could activate video mode with the app, which you still cannot do. That was one of my biggest complaints about the EP5, I should say, that you couldn't not trigger video mode from the Wi-Fi. You still can't do it here, and I've complained repeatedly to Olympus to let me do that, and apparently the people who make these decisions do. They are aware that people want to be doing triggering video with it, but haven't quite figured it out yet. Apparently, I don't know whether that's going to come in a future update, but as you can see here, the live update is very fast, very smooth, very responsive. So it's really, really easy and lovely to work with. And that's basically the hardware. I mean, the rest is pretty standard. You've got the memory card door over here, battery door on the bottom, the connection. There's normally a rubber gasket there to cover that up to keep the waterproofness, water resistance, I should say, intact when you're not using the optional battery grip thingy. But yeah, it's, other than that, pretty standard. It's festooned with buttons and dials and things, as you would expect a pro camera to be, because that's what makes a pro camera a pro camera. It's not necessarily, that much better in image quality than something in the, like, for example, the pen line, the EP5, image quality is superb, but the difference with a pro camera is this amount of control and handling, so you can get creative fast and intuitive without having to dig into menus or use the touchscreen and everything. You just go dial, and everything's sort of built into your muscle memory, and it means you can get the job done as efficiently as possible, and that's what's important about being a pro. So
that is it for my tour around the hardware of the new OMD EM1. The next video up will be all about the stills and the video that this thing spits out on our memory card, so stay tuned for that. Until then, I am Blunty, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.